Thank you for those introductions, Ahmed, and welcome to everyone for tonight's panel. This topic is very dear to my heart. As Ahmed mentioned, I did write my PhD on inner peace, so I wrote 90,000 words on spirituality over 5 years. I'll try not to remember too much about that, but it's a very important topic, and that's what brings us here today. And we know that there is a yearning, a thriving, wanting for spirituality. And I guess we will be asking some maybe difficult questions, get them a bit nervous, about where does, I guess, conventional religions stand with regards to spirituality in a world where almost everyone is claiming to have spirituality in one way or another. So I guess my first question, and before we go into the spirituality aspect, let's warm up a little bit and ask about religion in general. I guess with the respective religions that you adhere to, why do you believe that it is still relevant in today's, I guess, society to have those religions present? And who would like to start?
Bishop. So the relevance today, well, the relevance is really given by the sovereignty of God. The Bible starts, first verse, in the beginning, God, and God, the creator of all that is, seen and unseen, who gifts us with life on this tiny planet, in this vast universe, the end of which still can't be found. God, the author of life. I was with someone today and we were talking about life, death and eternity, as you do on a Wednesday in Melbourne. And I was reflecting, there's a great tradition in the monastic tradition that we're talking about our morning rituals, what we do in the morning. And I get up, say my prayers, have a bit of breakfast, go for a swim, see what the day holds. And there's a great tradition that in the monastic tradition, that you should go outside. And this is what the monks have done. You go outside with your shovel and you dig a shovel of dirt, throw it away, and that's just constantly reminding you that life is a gift. It doesn't last forever. Be careful how you spend the days. Life's a gift from God. And the shovel of dirt, you're just kind of preparing your grave, shovel by shovel, just to keep you focused on the gift of life from the sovereign God. And the scriptures really just tells us the story of God's sovereignty. So dear old Moses, whom we all remember fondly in both traditions, out the back of his father-in-law's, out the back of the mountain, looking after his father-in-law's sheep, trying to keep out of trouble, sees the burning bush, and one thing leads to another, and it's an example just of the sovereignty of God. So what gives our religions their continuous relevance is God. And each of us, through our varied traditions, try to help people to live meaningful lives in the context of God's gift of life to us.
Thank you. The soil, that is very powerful. It's a very good reminder as well. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess from your perspective, why is religion important?
First of all, good evening to everyone. Religion is part of human nature. Once I remember I had an atheist friend, and I asked him, have you ever prayed or called God? He said, well, yes, once my life was at risk. So I said, what did you say? He said, oh my God, please help me. So religion is part of human nature. However, since the beginning of humanity, there are two important, if you say, things. One is religion, other one is philosophy. And they sometimes compete with each other. Sometimes one of them takes over to others. However, there are few important questions that Ahmed mentioned. Who I am? What's the purpose of the life? Where did I come from? Where I am going? That since the beginning of humanity, the human beings, they ask these questions. So, as long as religions have answer to these questions, it will be relevant to the society. The second, I think, religion is like an ocean. It's not something that, easily you can learn, or it's something that you can go and do it, it's finished. No, it's an ocean. Every human being, according to the level of their spirituality, they will get the benefit of the religion. And the third point is, human being is not just physical dimension. We have also spiritual dimension. We have to satisfy both. Physically, we are nourished by food, water, and so on. But spiritually also, we need something as well. So the religion is part of that nourishes our soul. Also, as long as religion addresses to the heart, mind, and soul, it will be relevant. When one of them is disconnected with heart, either mind or soul, then gradually it will decline. And the third point, I think religion connects humanity to the whole of the universe. We say that who created this tree created me as well. Who created this gentleman created me as well. So each creation reflects, at least according to Islam, 20 names of God. So through these names, a human being will be able to find connection to the whole of the universe. Of course, when we have connection with the whole of the universe, then that brings also satisfaction to our mind and our heart as well. And lastly, as long as the religion is revolving around, I think, the genuine representation, and the religion will exist in the society. When this is lost, then probably the religion will become like a dogma and will not be applied or practiced.
Yeah. I guess both of you have quite convincingly or compellingly argued that religion is an important part of life. Having said that, though, when we look at the census, actually before the most recent census, it was 23% who put no religion for their, it doesn't mean they're all atheists, but the last census that surprisingly went up to almost 30%. So I guess despite its importance, why do you think there are so many Australians who are choosing no religion as their way?
Thank you for another deep question. Look, there have been better times and there have been worse times. The religion continues, our religion, I think both of our religions have made many mistakes. It's in a way, it's an argument for the existence of God that we're still functioning at all, given the magnitude of some of the mistakes. It shows the sovereignty of God in its own way. I think whatever might be the census that's going on, what is also going on is that God continues to draw people into communion with God. That just continues to happen. And in the Christian tradition, we recognise 4 ways that God is always reaching out to us, to humankind. One is through really intense times of spiritual communion, maybe through a vision, maybe through a dream, maybe through just a moment of grace where God's transcendent reality just breaks into people's lives in a way that just is unforgettable. A second way that God keeps drawing people into communion is through the intersection of the Holy Bible and the Spirit. And the tradition is full of stories of people who are reading the Bible just pick it up, open it, read it, and word and spirit intersect, and they know that that word is speaking to them, and it transforms their life. And, you know, be it St. Anthony, reading St. Matthew's Gospel, reading that and knowing that the word there was just for his life, and from that being transformed into the great founder of the contemplative traditions of the Desert Fathers and Mothers in the 3rd and 4th century through to today. People, I commissioned a new priest out at Banyul just a couple of weeks ago. She went to church, she hadn't been for a long time, wasn't sure why she was going, walked in the door, what she heard read to her hit her right in the heart. She had her own intellectual doubts. She had to go away. Her question was the historic authenticity of the Bible. She had to go away and read and think and read about the historic authenticity for that spiritual moment to then translate into an intellectual commitment. So that's a second way, word and spirit intersecting. A third way God is always reaching out to us is through friendships, you know, through family, through the faithfulness. So many stories of a child watching a grandfather down on the ground with his working man's hands together praying. That image helped a child to discover faith, plus the loveliness of his particular grandparent, the sound of grandmothers' voices reading the Bible stories. You know, children can look back and know that just the sound and the love that was in their grandparents' voice reading the Bible stories was what brought them to faith, along with the consistency of behaviour. So through relationships, people are drawn into communion with God. And the final way in which we see people somewhat paradoxically drawn into communion with God comes sometimes through complexity, through difficulty, even through tragedy. That somehow in the midst of where the whole nature of life is disturbed, the life people are used to, somewhere in the midst of that they discover God's love for them and God's grace for their journey continuing from there. So, you know, we know that there's a lot of negative media about religion at the moment. I mean, the reality is the media make up the news and then they report on it. So you've got to have a bit of a sense of distance about it. And apart from what might be in the media talking down religion and amplifying the negative, everywhere I go, every week, every place I go, I see people leading beautiful, graceful lives, and the grace of, in my tradition, the grace of Jesus just giving beauty to their lives and to their community life. So, you know, as I said with the first answer, I better not get longer as we go. We'll be here till midnight. But as I said with the first answer, you know, God is sovereign, and I don't fuss too much about these things. I just try and be faithful myself.
That's true. I guess it's a good point. Despite the negativity that we may see within the media, there are so many avenues through which people find God. Is an important point you've highlighted. So what would you like to say?
Well, first of all, one of the great Muslim scholars in the 11th century, he says that half of the people leave the religion because of the people of the faith, because of the misrepresentation. I think that we have to look at from two angles. One is internal, second one is external factors. And internal factors, if you look at even today, the universities, what percentage of money is being dedicated to do research about religion? It is the lowest. And second, I think egoism, whether we call today individualism, gradually is becoming like a religion. And the third point is, yes, there is negative perception in media about religions, especially about Islam. We can count it as an external factors, but I think the lack of collaboration between the religion as well. Because if the religions collaborate each other about the universal principles, I think most of the religion will agree probably about that universal principles, and then we'll be able to see that the more people are practicing the religion. Under internal factors, if we imprison the religion in the mosque, church, and synagogue or temple, yes, the people are away from the religion. But what the religion is, we have a well-known mystic, his name is Rumi. He says that I was looking for God. I went to the mosque, I couldn't find there. So then I went to the church, I couldn't find there. I went to the temple, I couldn't find there. Then look at my heart. I found God in my heart. I think if you look at from that angles, those even don't come to the place of worships. But still, if they are acting righteously, if they are kind to their parents' children, kind about environments, respecting human rights, working lawfully, making money lawfully, all of that is also religion. I think the definition of the religion in today's people's mind is more about organized religion. So if you look at it from the attributes perspective, then we can find many common grounds. In regard to external factors, it's a fact that despite all of that technological development, a prosperous economy, each individual has to work harder and harder to provide her or her needs. 100 years ago, what did you need? But today, probably we have 5,000 things in our home we have to purchase. So we have to work hard and harder. Then we neglect that spiritual dimension. And gradually, the human is becoming like a materialistic. So it used to be, whether you can call church-centered or God-centered life, but now gradually becoming money, wealth-centered life. And this is because of many other reasons. However, on the other hand, I think, despite all of that, the most important one, I would say that the lack of genuine representation of the religion. Could be any religion. When the money or the position of fame or things become goal, then religion will decline, because it will contradict the main principle of the religion. And second, the love should be there. When love is missed, the religion becomes dogma. And when it becomes dogma, no one follows the rules. It's like, theology becomes a dry body, like a body without soul. And therefore, here is important that the spirituality should be injected, the dry body of theology. And love should be injected to the body of theology. Otherwise, I think the people will run away from the religion.
So I think both of you have highlighted the importance of spirit of the religion is very important. So I should say at this point, I'm going to ask one or two more questions, and then I will give you an opportunity to ask questions as well. So be patient with me, please. But so the spirit of the religion is important, which means let's get to spirituality now. Now, spirituality means different things for a lot of people. I guess for you, what does spirituality mean? And what does it mean in your own life as a Christian?
Thank you. So, in my understanding, we go on a journey, the journey of a soul, and there's a section of theology called ascetical theology, which is really in the Christian tradition the section of theology that deals with spirituality, the journey of a soul, and that really analyses that there's really three stages in our journey. The first one is that awakening to the reality of God, and thus God in relation to us, and awareness of our separateness from God at the same time as being drawn to God. And that by its means that the light of God kind of shines on us, and we become aware of the journey we must undertake to be the holy ones of God, that there are aspects of us that are illuminated that we realise must change. And in my tradition, following the way of Jesus and trying to live in the word of Jesus, reading the Bible, I look at that in relation to my life and I think where does the change need to come? And then we know that the changes that we need to make by then, the big ones, the demanding ones, often it takes a journey. We have to go on a journey. Both of our wonderful traditions have an appreciation of pilgrimage, that through going on a pilgrimage, you might focus your yearning to be drawn into deeper communion with God. And I think, taking up your point before about the clutter of materialism, you go on a pilgrimage and it does help you to unclutter from a lot of the stuff that we ponder and think about day by day. And so we're all on a kind of a pilgrimage, really, life, death and eternity. And so after that stage of kind of awareness of the reality of God, the purgative stage it's called, then we look to those moments of illumination along the way. Now, just to give an example in this journey of the soul, and the getting and letting go of things and getting rid of things, just recently I've been with two people who I've known quite a long time, two clergy, and I've listened to them quite a lot, and both of them had things that had happened in their lives which really upset them, that where they felt really badly treated, and objectively, in some measure, they were. And they had to, and that, in a way, that became the narrative of their life. That was the defining narrative of their life. And I saw them over a period of time, and they were getting on doggedly with their life, but there was a point of, there was this sadness that sat in them. And both of them, individually, separately, and recently, unexpectedly, entirely unexpectedly to me, wanted to talk, and they wanted to say that they themselves had decided to let go of that they had realised that carrying around that particular narrative and that sense of being badly treated and that ill justice was actually destroying their own well-being. And they, forgiveness we know is the thing we're called to do, but we also know forgiveness is layered, and you might think you've forgiven, then you find another, there's still another layer. So it of itself is a journey. But they had reached a point of, in a way, it was forgiving themselves for holding on to it for so long and just letting go of it. The difference in them was amazing. Like it was meeting different people. Just that sense of something gone, let go of. And it was, they had to make that choice at their own time. They couldn't be kind of people might have said, better you forget about all of that, it's not doing you any good. But they had to be at a point where they wanted to do it. The difference in them was amazing. So that, that's the spirituality in that is the sense of the Spirit, the call of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, beautiful Spirit of God, and that awareness of the things that we know need to change. Sometimes as little things, sometimes as big things. But that's what spirituality is about. And in my own practice, along with reading the Bible and Holy Communion and preparing carefully for that and treating each time of Holy Communion, as I once saw in a church, as if it is the first, as if it's the last, as if it's the only time, just having that sense of the awesomeness of the sacred mystery of communion with the Most High. And I've found additional to that the importance of the prayer of the heart, of the Jesus prayer, of praying over Jesus have mercy, and over, I've been praying that prayer now for the best part of 30 or 40 years, and found that prayer kind of, which starts in the head, sort of descending into one's heart and starting up in one, as a way of just trying to stay focused and attentive. Like I see Jesus in the Gospels, so focused, so attentive, and not thinking too far back, not thinking too far ahead, just really focused on the unique moment, and to try and be and live in Holy Spirit. So it's a journey, some days are better than others, and some days I might delude myself I've made some progress, and then other days, no, not really. And the journey goes on, you know, and there are those moments of illumination that keep you encouraged. People of grace, I'll just finish here. A year or so back, we had a holiday, and I decided I would write down the moments of grace and the people of grace in my life. So I just sat in this very congenial place by a beach in the taverna, and I just remembered. Just all I did was just think, who are the people of grace? When were the moments of grace? And it was beautiful just to see how, you know, God had brought to me people and moments of grace just to keep me. And there's a great wisdom. We live our lives forward and we understand them backwards. And I think if, you know, any of us do that little exercise, just remembering back the people and the moments of grace, you'll just see that, in a way, there's been this graceful presence guiding us along. So,
Thank you. Focus, connection, reflecting, that they seem to be very important parts of spirituality, and it's something that we yearn for, definitely. So what does spirituality mean to you?
Well, they ask one of the great scholars in Islamic history, he said that less talk, much work. I think he summarized the spirituality. However, I agree with Bishop Huggins about the spiritual journey. Islam focuses a lot about the spiritual journey. The day we are born till we die, and then life in hereafter, all of that is considered as a spiritual journey. And again, someone asked the way of the spirituality to a great scholar in the 13th century, mystic Ibn Arabi. He said that the way which take us, the ways that which takes us to God are as much as the breath of human beings. So someone can just take care of an animal, that is a way of spirituality. Someone can help a poor. Someone can write an article. Someone can, you know, clean the temple, mosque, environment, anything. So there are many ways that it can be considered as the way of spiritual journey. However, the Muslim scholars, they have many views on this issue. One of them said that it's in 3 stages. One of them is called ilm al-yaqin, which means to know by knowledge, to know spirituality through knowledge. Then when you gain that knowledge, and then the second stage is to witness. They call ayn al-yaqin. Like you heard that there's a fire, you know, in such street. This is the news you learn, and then you go and look at it. Oh yes, there's a fire. You can see the smoke, and then you approach it. Then you can see it's very warm. And this is the last is called haqq al-yaqin. Then you will realize for sure that there's a fire there. So in Islamic perspective, they say first thing to gain the spirituality, to know about the names and attributes of God, not just through knowledge, also through experience. If you would like to know how God is merciful, just don't talk about it. Try to be merciful to all creations. If you would like to know God's love, less talk, much work. Try to love, you know, through works, because the best way to reach, in Islam is called haqiqah, the truth is serving, regardless of their faith and traditions, status, social status, it doesn't matter. So this is also the best way, you know, in the spiritual journey. The other point I would like to make it that some Muslim scholars, they focus on retreat, which is again is a tradition in the other religion, especially in Christianity. Silent, for example, even, as you know, it's another tradition in the Christianity, as well as in Islam, as I said, talk less, much work is important. Other point is, you know, when human beings gain the knowledge of ma'rifah, knowledge of God, then we will see how God is perfect. Of course, in its human nature, we love all perfect things. We love all beautiful things. Then human being will be able to love God. When love God, then the third stage we call makhafatullah, which means fear of God. But that fear originates from respect. It's not that, you know, as I have fear of a tyrant or a police or, you know, so on. No. That fear originates from respect. And when we have reached that level, then the last level called Zawq Ruhani, which means that it's spirit joy. After that, you will enjoy whatever you face, whether it's calamities, whether it's blessings. And every day, one of them will knock your door. You should welcome, whether it's calamities or blessing, welcome, and be happy with whatever you face. So it's a huge issue. If I talk about it, it would take hours and hours. I should stop here.
It sounds like there's a lot of, peace of contentment that comes with spirituality. But it also, I get the impression that with both faiths, there's a whole tradition, there's a text revelation behind the understanding of spirituality. So my next question's kind of controversial. Do you think people can find spirituality without, conventional religion, as in Islam or Christianity? Especially in modern times, we have people who can feel that they can have spirituality through a bracelet or through, some material or anything really almost. Do you think that is possible?
I think it's his turn to go first.
This is off the records. No one's.
Well, it is a difficult question. First of all, I think, in our modern time, we are addicted to many things that we neglect many other things, important things. One of them is iPhone. We know that there's iPhone, there's, many I, but I don't see I believe. Because we are addicted. Then when we are addicted, we have no time to contemplate. If you really, as a human being, we contemplate, it's in the Quran. There are 2 points of view that Abraham, he found God through contemplation. And so it's a human responsibility, even if they don't know anything about any religion or any prophet or Jesus or Muhammad, peace and blessing upon both of them. And still, logically, intellectually, that they have to believe in a supreme power. We can see this even in the indigenous religion in this country. They believe in a supreme power in one way or other way. So when we contemplate, then 3 things come to our mind. It can be, one is that building was built by itself, or is by coincidence, or nature. That, how we are going to deny, that when we look at the universe, even look at a fly, is connected with the whole of the universe. If you do not believe that there's a creator, then we have to give every cell in that fly power of a God, infinite power. Because the fly know how to fly, how to get warm from the sun, and how to fight against its enemies, and so on, many things and therefore, it's impossible. Second, how we can say that, something happened, earthquake happened, that building, all that building, everything come together, become like a building. And this is also impossible. And also philosophy argues that it's causes and effect. Many causes. How we can know that a little soil, whatever you plant the seed, it grows. How many factors in that soil? So when we contemplate, we will be able to understand the Creator. And then, when we understand the Creator, then everything starts from there. However, even if someone does not believe in anything, by doing good actions, still he or she may feel some spirituality. Any good actions, if it is not illegal, if it is helping, as I said, any creations, he or she may feel some kind of satisfaction, happiness, whether it can be called spirituality or not, but it is there for sure.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for going first for that question. So, spirituality without religion, and why do people feel drawn to try that?
And is it possible?
Well, I think the reason people are drawn to at least try it is because of our yearning to be free. Like, we want to be, it's such a gift to be free. And we know, just looking at the world around us, people will put up with all kinds of things, but they yearn to be free. They will be free. I mean, last night I was in a house in Sunshine West with some refugee people, UNHCR refugee people, who, to flee from tyranny, got on a boat 5+ years ago and ended up on Nauru, and are now in community detention, hoping for a better outcome from their applications. That yearning to be free, you know, to not be oppressed. People will put up with torture, they'll put up with humiliation, they'll put up with the complete denial of their human rights, they'll put up with all kinds of degradation, but they will be free. And it's the movement of history that we're to all be free, this human family on this tiny planet in this vast universe. So given, if the perception of religion is that this is going to be another repression, another point where people are trying to control who I am and what I choose, well, of course people will push back against that until they perhaps appreciate that God leaves us utterly free as to if, when, how much we choose to draw ourselves into communion with God. So I understand the instinct of it, but I think what, along with all the risks of narcissism and, you know, creating a religion in your own image, which goes with, you know, trying to step aside from any tradition, the truth is that people, as their journey unfolds, unless they have shocking experiences of whether it's the church or the mosque, they will find a place where they find support and encouragement and facilitation of the journey they're on. I mean, I just happened to notice one of our wonderful priests has just arrived late now, and I know he's late because he's been with a very old priest who's near the end of his life journey. He's there to be with him and to say the prayers of the church for him as he journeys into eternity, a dear priest who trained here at Trinity College. Now, that quality of support and encouragement and belonging, you know, that's what religion at its best offers to the individual as their journey unfolds, that place of being held in the hard times, being encouraged, being appreciated, you know, that belonging. We're communal beings. And so while people might start their journey thinking, give me the space, I want to have my own spirituality, if their journey has authenticity, sooner or later it becomes communal and they want to share it, and then it's important that they find a healthy place where that can unfold. We pray a healthy church, a healthy mosque, so people's lives can flourish.
So it definitely provides that sense of community as well, which is very important with the conventional religions.